Welcome to the Music Production Podcast, everybody. This is Brian Funk, aka AfroDJMac, and today I'm speaking with Jesse from Gravitas Recordings, Gravitas Create. Very excited to have him here. They're doing some really cool stuff for us music producers and the community. So, what's up, Jesse? How you doing?
Hey man, thanks for having me. We're stoked to be invited on.
Yeah, or me. I'm excited to have you too, because I've been kind of watching you guys a little bit and seeing the create aspect of Gravitas grow. And I guess it was like maybe a year ago now where we did the pack together, the Ableton Live pack.
Yeah, so we before we launched Gravitas Curate, we had done 3 sample packs in a series called Novature. And I think on the last one that kind of caught your attention, and you had done an Ableton Live pack, or rack rather, or pack and a rack to kind of play those sounds, and we were super excited to see that because it really showed that, someone like yourself who's out in the education space was kind of paying attention and wanted to collaborate. So we're excited to see that.
It was fun to take like your collection of sounds and then put them into something that you can use as like an instrument drum rack inside of Live.
Yep.
And this is kind of like one of my guiding principles, but it was fun for me to get those sounds to use, So if it's something I enjoy, I think that there's got to be at least somebody else out there somewhere that might like it too. So
Yeah,
thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Absolutely. I love your themes. Like, I think the one that caught my eye the other day was like high school, like locker sounds, or all these different high school sounds. And I was like, what a crazy idea. And I was just, my mind immediately went to like, what is the story of that? Like, where did he go? And what was involved with getting these sounds?
Well, I'm a high school teacher. I teach English. And
Awesome.
last year, this is a project I do a lot, where I have the kids at the end of the year write a letter to the incoming freshmen and incoming seniors of next year. I usually have freshmen and seniors. So I decided just to, it's the end of the year, it's May or whatever, and the old routines are getting tired. So to mix it up, I brought in my push and a microphone. And I was like, all right, guys, we're going to make a song. You guys are going to be writing this letter to the 9th graders. That's kind of like your homework and on the side thing. But to help get you some ideas, we together will make a song.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's always the challenge of getting kids to kind of open up and participate because the stakes are so high socially in high school.
Yes.
I go to work and, that's not my social life. It's not everything. But when you're a student in high school, like everything you do it's your school life, it's your social life. So it's often tough to get kids to take a risk. But what was really cool is that I sort of got like different kids than I normally get. So, there's always like a few kids that will raise their hand no matter what every time. And then there's always a few that never do and don't ever want to speak. And I was surprised to reach a bunch of kids that, I really knew very little about at the end of the school year. And then to find out suddenly that they're into, whatever, making music or just the curious, I want to touch these light up buttons. So it was a cool experience for that. And a lot of the ideas for the sounds were theirs. I just kind of, did the technical end, but as far as like slamming a locker door or recording the bell, those were their ideas.
Yeah.
And it was fun too. I mean, I got some good clap sounds with 30 people. How
Yes.
often can you really get 30 people at your disposal to just clap so you can have a nice solid sound
awesome.
for your beats?
What you just said, the Gravitas Create team, we just went to Keeling Middle School in Austin, Texas, and it's a pilot program. And we went into this classroom. They have 30 workstations. They all have Ableton pushes. And we basically did a production challenge with these kids. And what you said about getting the kids to open up and the social stakes was a huge learning curve for me, because in the talks and workshops and things that I've done in the past, a lot of the things that I use and sort of, speeches and things that I kind of normally work with people, it didn't really get them going. And I had to, on the fly, kind of switch things up and try to connect with these kids. And it was tough. So props to you, one, for teaching English and being a teacher, because I think we need it. And I'm sure you have a lot to say on that subject, and I do too as well. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see kids at that stage. These were middle school kids, so they were even more less confident in who they were and kind of stating what they were into. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean they're discovering themselves. They're learning who they are. They don't even really know yet for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes those little things are the spark they need. I mean, I had at least one kid in particular who, like, after we did that, I discovered he was into like making beats and music, and I had no idea. And he, nice kid, but never had that conversation with him. And now he's one of the kids that comes to my after school like music production thing, because we got a bunch of pushes donated from Ableton to the school when they did that initiative, and it's in its infancy right now for me at the school, but like it's pretty cool. Like that here, if I didn't do that, maybe he wouldn't be there.
Yeah,
and he's like probably the most enthusiastic guy I have right now.
Nice,
so
man.
It's always a surprise. I saw the pictures online of you guys in the school, and I definitely wanted to ask you what that was about and how it was going. But I think maybe, because I'm like ready to dive right in and like find out what's going on, but maybe we should just like back it up a second, and maybe you can give us a story a little bit about like how this all came, what your guys' vision is, and because it's pretty cool. I think people will like it a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Thanks for having us, and thanks you for giving me a place to kind of tell the story, because we are really excited to be in the music education space and to kind of bring our vision to life. I started Gravitas Recordings in 2011. It really started going, kind of taking off 2012. John Burcham, who goes by Symbionic, he joined on as the label manager. We sort of got our process down, releasing music, started doing some charity compilations, working with people like Edit from the Glitch Mob, or Craddy, a lot of the glitch hop and bass scenes, or bass producers, and kind of leveraging our music industry connections, and then establishing the brand and sort of, following our true musical sense and identity rather than sort of chasing trends. And in the name Gravitas, that's really about integrity, authenticity. We're not about, champagne and standing on the deck and, Jesus poses. And we really want to connect with people through music and share that amazing experience with people, either, through our producers and allowing them to get their music heard, but also really just creating a community. And so that was always the vision. And for about 2012 until 2015, we were really just working on the label and building that side of things. And finally, about 2015, 2016, things started to I don't want to say plateau, because we're still growing and working with ever exciting artists and releasing more interesting and fun music. But I think we got the process down, and we kind of established, we got a team, and got our social media on lock, and everything kind of started to, solidify. And so at that point, we kind of pulled our heads up and was like, okay, what's next? What makes sense for us as an organization, a brand, a team? What are we interested in? And we kind of went back to our goals and our roots of like, what was this originally about? And we kind of saw that like it was only one part of the conversation, that we were putting music out. Hey, listen to our music. Hey, listen to our music. And that's great. And we release artists like Closey, and people are like, holy cow, this music touched me. I love it. And it's like, wow, that's an amazing experience. But we felt like the second part of the conversation, where people are either engaging with the stems or remix contests and things like that, was something that we had done some of and seen good results, but we wanted to do more of. At the same time, we started doing some social media outreach and connecting with people on Twitter and Instagram and asking them some questions like, are you a producer or are you a music fan? And the responses we got back was like 50-50. Some people were
Hmm.
just music fans, and then we would kind of ask them, what artists do you like? And that was just a way of kind of doing some A&R and research and getting a beat on what's going on in the scene and who's hot, who's not, and kind of thinking about who are the artists we want to work with on the label side. But then more interestingly, we saw about 50% of the people that responded to us were producers or wanted to be producers. And so we felt like there was a real gap there for us, that we felt like we had an opportunity to kind of fulfill a need and talk to a lot of people that were engaging with our brand and engaging with the music in a more interesting way. So we started Gravitas Create. At one point we called it Gravitas Studios. The domain and the whole situation wasn't available, so we kind of came back to this idea of Gravitas Create.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally love that name because it's an action. It tells people what we want them to do, and it's not about selling things or selling people on a dream. It's about getting in the studio and doing work. And so our real goal at Gravitas Create is to facilitate and sort of be your studio partner, weekly challenges, production tools. And yeah, we have some sample packs, and we want to do courses and put things for sale. And we'd love it to be a thriving, money-making business in some at some point and some level. But more importantly, we're seeing people really respond to this idea of it takes hard work, it takes practice, it takes dedication in the studio, engaging, focused practice and effort to push your art form forward and really create interesting art. So that's something that we have been blown away with by the response of the community already, and I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
That's a great story, and it's nice how you reached out to the community and the fans and got that information to understand who you're interested in, who's interested in your work, and what you can do to add value to that. And I'm pretty fascinated that you got it 50-50, like the producer fan thing. And it's, I guess, if you are a producer, you are a fan of music to begin with, right?
Absolutely.
And the idea that so many, I wonder if it's a genre thing or a style maybe that draws producers in or something, but that's a pretty big number, wouldn't you say?
I think we're in a new world. I think we're in a world where people want to try their hands at things, and electronic music is one of those things that you can pretty easily at this point just get started and try. And it's amazing, and it's important. It's important because it allows people to tap into technology and their creativity. And that's really where the interesting stuff is happening across the world, across interesting companies like Google and Apple and Pixar. Those are Netflix are driving the innovation. Tesla. It takes not just the technology, but it takes the creative spark, the imagination. And like you said, you're a teacher, man. I'm sure you see this every day. We are not teaching people to be creative. We are not teaching people to problem solve in a really thoughtful way. And I think that music production, that technical experience of, okay, this is, I'm going to translate what's in my head into this DAW, is such a powerful way to get your feet wet in that digital creative experience.
Yeah, and to that point, it's one of the things that drives me crazy about school in general more than anything is the lack of focus on creativity. And the more we move towards standardized tests and these big assessments that happen, it's not encouraging any kind of creativity. And in English, where a big part of it's writing, so much of it is no different than doing a math problem where you're inserting X in the equation. Yep. Because you get the same kind of question that no one cares about, no one feels anything for. And eventually you just kind of game the system by coming up with your little pattern of writing and just changing the title and the author. And it's the same piece, and you think everyone cheated off each other, but they all did their own thing because that's what it encourages. Yeah. And arts and music are getting, defunded all the time. So it's
Yeah, it's
great
great.
that there's people and companies that are interested in building that up. I think
We
the
are doing,
idea of create,
yes.
Gravitas create is really cool because it is like it's a verb, it's like an action, it's a command. It's like do this, like we're not just putting stuff out to consume. We're saying, hey, be a part of it. And I think some of the biggest things out there, like take a look at YouTube. I mean, sure, you can watch a ton of videos on there, but it's YouTube, it's
Yeah,
you do it, and I
yeah,
think that's a really cool. I think it works cooler than studio personally. So maybe that was a
yes,
nice stroke of fate that it was unavailable.
it worked out.
It's like an invitation, which is really cool.
I agree. Thank you. And just to dive into a little of about why we're so excited is like on the artist side, and what we've seen work really well is like when we did remix contests. We did a remix contest with Mr. Bill for a song, and that's how we discovered Closey. Like she
Mm.
was got second place, and the first place winner was Haywire. And so it really allowed people to kind of come up, and so now we want to really do this full circle where when we do EPs or albums, there's a producer pack that comes along with it with presets and samples and some stems, and it allows the production community to engage in that art more fully. And what I tell our artists is like, if you go and do a remix for someone and you spend 3 or 4 days in the studio working on that, like you have now, like, that's the most intimate someone could probably ever be with that song, because they're just like
Yeah.
breathing it, living it, drinking it in, and reimagining it in their head. That's gold. Like if they like the song, then they're probably going to be your fan for a long time after that.
Yeah, I mean, as a producer myself, there's nothing more fun than like hearing those isolated tracks and the stems
Yeah.
and seeing like, how this stuff came together, the
Yep.
behind the curtain kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I think you're right, like because there's so much music out there, there's so many avenues to get it, and it's kind of like a passive thing where you're not really involved in it. But what you guys are trying to do is really cool because it gets you involved, it gets you a part of it, and to explore it on a different level. It's and I think that's like something that we as musicians and songwriters and producers need to think about. How do you create that next level connection? Like what is it about you that and your work, that is interesting and exciting for people?
Yep.
Because it's so easy to get caught up and lost in the noise. And even if you've got the greatest thing ever released, how does anyone hear it? How does anyone find it and connect with it?
Yeah, and I think that's something we're hoping to bring more clarity to. Me myself, I'm not like in the studio producing all the time. I'm running the label, I DJ, and I manage a couple artists. And so my hope for myself is that I can bring some of that industry and business knowledge to the table so that people can understand what does it look like to start from sort of a phase one or phase two artist, where you're starting to define your sound, you're starting to define your brand, and then you're starting to maybe get some momentum with the project where people are listening to your music and they are excited about what they're hearing. And then what are those next steps? When do I get an agent? When do I get a manager? When should I start to try to work with a label? What does it look like to release an album, or should I release an album before a single? And so I am working on those pieces of how to communicate that and kind of explain that to someone as they first come into the industry. And those are questions that I had even when I was starting the labels, like when should some of these artists get managers and agents? And so now that we've started an agency, I'm doing management, all that stuff's a lot more clear to me, and I want to share it back with the world, because if you just have some simple answers, then it's like, oh, okay, I understand that. Now I can go back and focus on actually making great music.
Yeah, because that's a problem, I think, for a lot of people is that not only do you have to be the artist, not only do you have to be the musician, now you got to be the producer, the engineer, you got to be
Yep.
the promoter, you got to be the record label, you got to like do 100 jobs that used to be armies of people.
Yep.
And there's so many more ways to reach people now, so it's not just getting your song on MTV.
Yeah, and
There's
there's a creative aspect to every one of those parts,
yeah.
And so even like what you've done is by, hey, I'm going to be in this education space, and then you've got a whole community kind of working around you. That was creative. That was interesting. And that helps you stand out. And in music, you kind of have to be different. You have to stand out and have something unique. I mean, that's what people want. That's what people are interested in.
It's a cool thing for you guys too, because now you're getting exposed to new artists all the time.
Yeah, it's a full on A&R idea. I mean, we are looking for talented people every day, and rather than kind of waiting for them to come to us, we're doing these weekly production challenges, and we're already seeing some people be like, whoa, that's great A work, and then, hey, we want to do a single with you. So that's beautiful. It ties into each other. The label and Gravitas and Gravitas Create really are meant to play with each other, play off of each other.
That's great, because I think a lot of times the idea of a record label, it's very like closed off. Like it's hard to know like how to send your music to them, and you get the feeling like they're not even going to listen to it anyway. It's going to go in the pile or the digital inbox or something, and there's no way of like breaking through unless you either know somebody or something totally out of this world happens. But when I go to Gravitas Recordings, one of the first things at the top of the page is submit a demo.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool that you guys have put that up there, and it's like, here are the steps, do this. You've got like a system for it.
Yep.
And on top of that, you've got the whole other create side when you go into like production on your page. And then that takes you into ways that people can get involved in your projects and doing the challenges, which we should talk about in a minute too. But now you're inviting them to participate and not just consume, which I think is really cool.
It feels so much better. It's like, literally I get goosebumps when I talk about it, because, and I'm glad you hit on the demo thing, because it's something that, like, when we first started off, a lot of my friends were even telling me, I was telling them I'm going to start a label, and they're like, man, like I send my music to labels and I never hear anything back, and they don't listen to it. And it sucks. It hurts your momentum. It hurts your heart, because you put your soul into your music, and then you're pushing it out in the world hoping that it will resonate with someone. And even if you get a no, at least you know that someone listened to it. And so our commitment to people that send us demos, that we listen to everything that comes through our demo box. And so, yeah, like you said, go to our website, submit a demo. It's organized. We all listen to it, and we give feedback on the tune. Sometimes we say, hey, this has uncleared samples in it. You can't release music like that, commercially. We're a commercial label. We are trying to make some money with the music, both for the artist and for ourselves. And and in the case where it doesn't meet our criteria, we'll generally give some structured feedback around why, and then say, come join our Gravitas Create production community and engage there, and then learn from us and learn from the community, and get feedback from us on these challenges. And I'm excited, because I don't see anybody else doing anything like that as an organization, and it feels really good. It's exciting.
I have to imagine that it's got to take a little bit of the pressure off of you too, in a way that you're being upfront about what you want, what you're looking for. And this idea of sharing with people, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you submit a track. This is what we want to see. This will increase your chances. Because, I mean, for me, it's always felt like when you want to send your songs to some gatekeeper, record company, radio station, whatever you want to call it, it's this mysterious process where you got to like know secret things to do, and whether or not you should like send a link or a file, or if you should address them personally, or if you need to ask permission first and then send it. Like and you wind up going on all these websites with 8 tips on how to submit your music, and they all contradict each other.
Yes, they all do.
So you kind of like throw your hands in the air. I don't know what to do. And as somebody who is trying to make music and trying to actually do their art, and then get bogged down in all that kind of other stuff that's not really the art.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
It is.
So I think it's really cool that you guys are really upfront about it. and just like, hey, this is how you do it. You know, we're not trying to like hide from you because we don't want to get a pile of your stuff. It's like we're inviting you,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
nice.
We really want people to send us their demos, and you know, we get excited that people care, would look at us and go, hey, I would love to release my music with that. We know it's not for everybody. We know we're not, you know, Mad Decent or, you know, Monster Cat. We are our own little island in the sand, and so if you're vibing with us, then we would definitely want to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So as you move into Gravitas Create, one of the things I noticed that I really like a lot, and I like it for a couple reasons, is the weekly challenges. I think it's cool that one, it's weekly, so it's like you have to do something every week, and these sort of deadlines, self-imposed challenges, for me have been super helpful. Like I was telling you before we were like, you know, on the air, that when I was started releasing my Ableton Live packs, the free packs that I do, I did it every week. I did one every week. And the reason I did that was because after the first one came out, I was so excited that anyone even went to my webpage. So I'm like, well, I better keep it up, you know?
Yeah.
But the discipline was sort of a surprise for me, that it got me doing something every week. And even if there was a busy week and maybe I didn't feel like making music for whatever reason, it got me to sit down and do it. And almost always I was glad I came up with something that I was happy with, that I would never done before if it wasn't for that deadline or that, you know, kind of goal or whatever you want to call it. So you want to tell us about that, like the all that kind of stuff you got going on with the challenges and
Yeah, absolutely. I
how
mean,
that works?
we've been caught off guard about how excited people have been to participate in them. We wanted to do something weekly, and we wanted to say, hey, you know, the basic idea is that, like you were saying, having some structure and some discipline around your art and around your process, it's only going to help. It's only going to like move forward. And when you're first trying to learn something, or you want to get better at something, that focused practice is like by far the number one way to to go forward, to make progress. And so we did a couple of these, and people were like, love it. And so one, it's allowing us to, as an organization, to stay focused and keep our eye on the ball. And then we're making samples, we're kind of pushing those out to people through our private Facebook group, and giving them a theme, giving them a key, giving them a BPM. And so part of that is to give creative constraints. And so we're giving you the samples, we're giving you the key, we're giving you the BPM. And so we're taking some of those decisions out of the equation and saying, we want you to focus and just make something like this. And so what we know about music production is that it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole. And so we're saying, okay, at first we only gave people a couple of days, and we were saying that just didn't work for people's schedules. So we're saying, okay, let's open it up for a week. And that seems to be working a lot better for everybody. I can't just drop everything on Sunday night and like bang it out. People have different work schedules and whatnot. So what we're seeing is, like, by taking some of those decisions out, it really allows people to focus on just getting creative and trying to put something down to pen on paper, like just work. And then also the motto, and we have this on the website, is learn, create, share. And so that's the process that we're hoping that people are going through every week. That we've got some tutorials, we've got some some things that we're talking about, either on social media or in the group or whatnot. And so we're looking to have people apply some of the stuff that they're learning to the challenge, and then doing the work, and then coming back and sharing it. And coming back and sharing it is an important part, because it erodes that fear of sharing your work with people. And so it's sort of like, I don't really like this term, but it's a safe space. Everybody's like in it together, and we're all sort of this gentleman and woman's agreement that we're not going to be assholes to each other, and we're just going to let people post their links and share it, and that feels good, and we'll give people feedback. And so all of the Gravitas Create people, the team, Garrett, Kaylee, and Nick, and myself, are going online, and we're leaving little notes. Hey, this sounds good. Hey, maybe did you think about trying this? This mix down could use some work. And I mean, I feel like that's really valuable for people to just get a little bit of external feedback on their art, so that it's not such a scary thing to do that in the future.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the most important ways to grow is to have someone here and give you an honest thought, because a lot of times, especially these days, you're doing it alone, you're by yourself. You
Yep.
don't know, you play for your friends and they're usually nice to you. or you know, mom loves your music or whoever. Um, but to get like an outside person who's not heard it before, like you know, as yourself, you get so close to a song you can't even tell what it sounds like after a while.
True. It's true. You come out of the studio and you go back and listen to it the next day and you're like, that is a totally different thing than I was hearing yesterday.
Yeah. I swear it was different.
What you're just saying is it is most producers produce alone, and that is a pretty isolating and lonely experience. And so that's another thing that we're finding with the group is people are connecting, they're collabing, and by virtue of working off those same stems or samples, hopefully there's a shared project. And I mean, I definitely think we will try, hey, pair up this week. Let's collab this week. Let's do this, so that people start to experience that of what that's, you know, sharing your ideas back and forth. I think some of the strongest producers, some of them are duos because they have that back and forth of, no, hey, I'm not feeling that section. Let's pull it out. And if you can get that dialogue and really work through it, it's going to produce a stronger result. Somewhat like what John Burcham and I have done with the label is when we field incoming music, it's like we both have to agree on an EP. And there's a lot of tension there sometimes. Like we go back and forth and like have to go to the mat and fight over, not fight, but like fight for your idea and be like, no, I really think this is strong because XYZ. And when you're forced to defend your position and something, and then someone else gives the counterpoint, and then if you come up with a new idea out of that, that's usually a much stronger thing.
Oh yeah. I know whenever I work with other people, it gets me thinking of things I never would have thought of. And the ideas just build on each other and it just flowers out. So to have that, that's a great built-in part to the whole project, to just give people that feedback. And then hear, wow, I had the same project and listen to what this person did. And then hear that person did this. And it's all from the same prompt.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And it opens your eyes, I think, to what's possible.
Yep.
And it's a great idea that you guys do those creative limitations, because I've always found for myself, for students, or even teaching writing, if you just say anything goes, it's so hard to make decisions.
It is. It is.
Even when I sit down to do music, and I love doing this, don't get me wrong, I love coming down and saying, where is it going to take me tonight, and just see what happens. It's never usually as productive as when I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this today. I'm going to work with this piece of gear, or I'm going to try this key or this time signature, or I got this sample I want to play with, whatever it is. It just focuses you and, like you said, cuts out those decisions. I think you can only make so many decisions in like a day, maybe, where you're like willpower or something like gives.
Yeah, you have decision. It's called decision fatigue, and it's like when you go to a supermarket and there's 700 different brands of tomato sauce, and you're like, I don't know the middle one. I guess it's like you don't want to try to filter all that out. So we hope that's helpful, and it seems to be. It seems to be that. And I do want to, just backing up, I want to credit Team Supreme from LA for sort of the genesis of that idea, because that was really something that they kind of started in the music scene, and we were like, love this idea, we're going to take it and run with it. So props to them. Thank you guys for for sharing.
I refer to that documentary they did with Ableton all the time. Yeah. And I every once in a while I'll put it back on, just because it just makes me fired up to see like what's possible, and when you work together, and that was a real gem. So tell me about your experience at the school, going into the middle school.
Man.
That's gotta be a trip.
I know the principal of the school, and he had reached out to me like probably 9 months ago, and told me about it. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Um, Let me know when it makes sense. We kind of lost touch, and then the music teacher um, connected with us through the group and started doing some challenges and actually bringing the challenges to his class, unbeknownst to us, and we didn't even know that this was really happening. And then he came and contacted me through email and sent us some links. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, there's on two middle school classes, or I'm sorry, three middle school classes taking these challenges, and just during their Friday sessions working with these challenges." And so we were like, "Wow!" And so it's like we would love to come and talk and just get to know these kids and just treat it like an experiment of what does it look like for Gravitas Curate to go out into the world and talk and just connect with these kids. And it was awesome. It was really cool to see kids 13 years old sitting down in a group or sometimes solo and getting to work. And they know how to use Ableton. They're loading samples, drum racks. They understand, how to set the BPM. They understand. They're sitting there checking keys on their phone and stuff. And I was like, dope, 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 dope. But like we kind of talked about earlier, like some of the things that I said to engage them around the music business or why it's important, I don't think that some of those concepts like landed as I had hoped. And so it was just a really great learning experience for me about to know your audience and really communicate effectively to what's important to them. And so that was something the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think if if I reach like one kid a day, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It is definitely hard, and it's challenging to put yourself in that mind frame that they might be in. But it sounds like a really awesome program that they have going there.
Yeah, I mean, Spotify came and built out these 3 rooms. They're fully sound isolated production rooms with proper, the wall treatments and everything. And they've got, I think, like 30 iMacs. They've got Ableton pushes that go along with it. The teacher, he goes by Ara or Aragon, and he's totally in it. I mean, he makes music and he just lives it, and he really understands the mindset and how to speak to them. And he just knows they want to play. They want to play with sound and play with music. And interestingly, there was a fair amount of girls in the class, which I was excited about because that's something that I'm wanting to address that in electronic music in the ways that make sense. And so to see girls really that there is no difference. I will say this: the girls were more focused on harmony and melodies, and the boys seemed to be more focused on drums and basses and sort of the more rhythmic side of things. So I did see that. I think that's a nature versus nurture kind of question, or what's appealing to girls. But in terms of the technology or just doing that, there was no difference. There was no quality of like the girls didn't know how to work the computer. And that's something that I think is really important for us to start at an early age, to show females that it's totally cool to just get in there and muck around and play. And so I was excited to see the girls in the class rocking it.
Yeah, that's cool. There's a group that's working for this very thing. I don't know if you heard of the Women's Audio Mission.
I have not.
I met them years ago, 3-4 years ago at an AES, the Audio Engineer Society thing. It was in New York, and Buddy and I went, and they had a booth set up, and it was pretty cool. Like they're trying to get like especially young girls, into creating music, and it might be a group you may want to check out with that in mind.
Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
I also know Erin Barra is pretty big with that too. I think she's got, I want to say it's Beats for Girls, maybe.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes. She also teaches for Berkeley Online, and she's big in like empowering that, because I mean the reality is like there's just not as many female role models in that world. as there should be. And
Right.
I mean, it's I see it in a lot of things. You know, I see it even in like the books we read in high school. Most of the protagonist is a boy or a man or something.
Yep.
It's a little more uncommon that the female protagonist is in there.
Yep.
So I think like organizations like that are important, and you know, because
It's
there's a lot of people with a lot of great ideas and energy that can be put to use.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because I mean, 50% of the population is female. And so if you look at something like electronic music and you see the participation levels in the low 20s or 10s, there's something to really look at that and why that's happening. And so you have programs like STEM that are encouraging women to get in mathematics and sciences, and that's super important. And so I think it goes all the way back to just early the way we teach boys is that it's okay to make mistakes and just try. And I think women are taught basically to be perfect and be pretty. And those are our values. And that sets a tone in school from day one of like, you're bad if you make a mistake to a girl. And so it really, in order to get good at something technical, you have to just make a bunch of mistakes and futz around.
Yeah.
And so it's challenging, but at the same time, like the conversation should not be, oh, how do we make this subset group where it caters just to women? And I think you hit it, was like, we need more female role models, and that brings girls in naturally, and they see that it's doable, and then that helps them push through the barrier, so to speak. So it's tricky. It's we see this with race as well, and so it's a very layered topic that there's not just one easy solution, or we already would have kind of done it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think what you guys are doing too is gonna invite all kinds of people into the game of creating and making music.
Well, thanks.
Which is cool. I want to be respectful of your time. I believe you said you had something to hit up after this. I'm sure it's a busy world over there. You guys have a lot going on, and kind of like almost two different departments now of Gravitas.
That's right.
It complement each other nicely.
Yeah, even one other thing on top of that is I run a web design agency called Lionshare Digital, and we build websites and branding for creative arts and innovative companies. So our next meeting is with a company called Vita Modus, and they work with the Do Lab. They build and design a lot of the structures for the Do Lab, like Lightning in the Bottle, or the Do Lab's stage at Coachella. And they're amazing. So we're really excited to be working with them. But no, we got a few more minutes, and if you got any other last questions or anything, I'd love to hit them.
Well, yeah. Maybe let's pretend I'm someone that's hearing about you guys for the first time on this episode. And where would you suggest they start? How can they get in and be a part of the whole Create movement? And where would where do you want people to kind of first come into contact with you guys?
Well, I would love for them to go to the website, Gravitas Create, so Gravitas create.com. And then basically, if you go there and you download any of the free sample packs or production tools, then you'll get added to our email list. And then from there, we're kind of dripping out different pieces and different ideas to you. I'd also love for you to join the Facebook group that's private. And so we're really trying to just, invite people as they connect with us. So, but if you search Gravitas Create on Facebook, our group should come up for that. And that's where we're really hosting these weekly challenges. And I think that's the place to get started. Come and join the community, get to know each other, drop a link to your project and share what you're up to, share some great production tip, and provide some value of something that you think's exciting, and be part of the conversation with us.
Nice. Is there a specific way you like people to submit, or is it just like kind of leave a link to Bandcamp, SoundCloud?
Oh no, just introduce yourself. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a group. So I mean, if you've
Nice.
got stuff on Bandcamp, I think that's great because it shows you've kind of really put a song and an album or EP together. If it's just SoundCloud, I think we're all really trying to support each other there. So
That's very cool. Well, I love what you guys are doing. It's really great to see it kind of come alive in the last, I guess, 6 to 10 months probably. Um, it has been really cool because, as I released the pack with you guys, this was sort of like something you were talking about and mulling around with. And now it's like really become this thing
yeah,
that's, as you're saying, taking a life of its own. You got, I think, 10 challenges out by now.
yep.
And you've been in a middle school and, you're making a difference. And that's so cool. And, for all you know, that one of the next great hits of our time could very well be because somebody came across you guys and got involved.
I hope so, man. And just to hit on the challenges too. So we're gonna start doing some guest challenges. So I'm sure we'll reach out to you and have you do a guest pack. We've got Laura Escude, who
Hmm.
goes by Alux. I mean, she's an amazing Ableton educator. She's like the Ableton operator for tours like Kanye.
Yeah,
And I mean, you look her up, it's like what a career she's had. Justin Beretta of the Glitch Mob joined the group, which is pretty huge. I mean, they're
absolutely.
pretty
Yeah.
famous, right? And he just joined, and it was a little under the radar. And I reached out. I was like, Justin, did you just join the group? And he said, yeah. I was like, awesome. You just made my day. Thank you. And he was like, it looks amazing. And I said, well, I would love to have you do a guest challenge at some point. And I think that will start to really spur people like really getting excited. Like I am participating in a challenge with a world known producer or touring artist. And that's exciting for us. So thanks for
Right.
having us.
Same for me. I'm excited for that too. Yeah, thanks for coming on and having this talk. And I'm hoping that there'll be some new people popping into the group as a result.
Absolutely.
Great. So thanks again, Jesse. I appreciate it. So you guys can check out gravitasrecordings.com, Gravitas Create. They're doing a lot of great music releases and also just some really cool stuff for the community at large. And a great place to share your music, get involved with some interesting challenges, maybe work on in a way you might not have worked before, and it might find yourself getting some inspiration out of the deal. So thanks everybody for listening and have a great day.